You know what people do? They coast. That's what quiet quitting means. It means like
They do
just
the bare minimum. They do the job description, and they don't do the above and beyond. They don't do those intangible things, and they quietly quit.
Yeah, there's a viral movement right now called Act Your Wage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, basically, workers are only doing what's in their job description and nothing else. And when an employer asks you to do more, the answer is no.
It's
That's
not
what
my job.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
like,
It's not act your wage. It's
Are
not my
these
job.
unionized employees?
No, it's all dudes.
No, it's just
No.
it's like anyone.
It's like 50% of the population, everything I've been reading is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes small businesses, like, I can understand.
I'm not afraid, Lauren. No, I disagree with you. Like you're about to defend it and saying how it's hard to small businesses. Here's what I think, Lauren. I got to tell you. Think about the same thing as the housing market. We got to put it back together. Like
Okay.
it was an employees market, and these people had jobs, and we couldn't hire. It was like very hard to hire for a while, and you were hiring recruiters. And you were paying recruiters money to get people for a little window over there, just like when people were getting cash out refinances. Same concept. But what you're finding is what I lead into this quiet quitting with. The big law firms, the top 50, are downsizing. Tech companies are downsizing. Morty, what does employers do when people quiet quit as far as their internal, how we keep a file on people?
Right.
What do you write down when someone's quiet quitting on their internal file?
That they're insubordinate and that they're not doing their job, and I would start the process of termination.
And so you just hold until the moment that you don't need that fool no more,
Correct.
but you start marking up the file. And the reason why you're marking up the file, and this is what we were going to talk about, Morty, with quiet quitting, you and I talked about it, is that if you just terminate someone randomly or you make someone else do the job, you have discrimination issues on it, right?
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, what?
Potentially, yes. Because if you have, let's say, 10 people doing the same thing, and you don't have a policy, you don't have a uniform policy, you're not applying the same standards to all employees, and you end up randomly firing one person who you see is quiet quitting when somebody of a different protected class is doing the same thing and wasn't fired.
So in English, like
Yeah.
if the
That was
black
English.
person, no, but you said
No,
protected class.
Oh, sorry.
So if the
Okay.
black person's doing one thing and the white person's doing another
Correct.
thing as far as quiet quitting, and you target one and not the other,
Right.
you got, and your point being that if you don't have a policy and you don't have a file on each of your employees demarcating what they're doing and what they're not doing with reviews, and then you end up doing something adverse to one of them, they're gonna say it's because of the color of my skin, right? And so,
the way to defend that is say you had a legitimate reason to terminate them. And if you said, oh, this person was quiet quitting, well, then they'll just come back and say, well, there's a white person who was quiet quitting, why didn't you fire them? Clearly, you didn't fire me because of quiet quitting, you fired me because I was black.
So smart employers during this time had put in policy manuals, if they don't have them already. They had everyone sign the policy manual. Like when Alex started here, and she's newer here as an extern, working here as a law clerk, is the first thing she had to do was take her sexual harassment training, and then she had to do the policy manual and sign on to it and know that that's what the rules are here. Just like Jeremy had to do it, and Morty had to do it, and Lauren had to do it, and I had to do it. Because we have a policy in place, and then we have files on each person in the office. And when people are quiet quitting, we know who's doing it. Like, what do you think, we're stupid? Like,
So no quiet quitting for me.
well, you said, Cheryl's not here, Alex. And you said, I'm ready to go on the Lieb Cast.
And that's not in your job description.
Not technically.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true. You should have waived your job
I should
description.
have no. I'm not getting my wage.
But what Alex instead did is she said, when we don't need to keep people that are overpaid and it becomes an employer's market instead of an employee's market, and we are no longer needing to hire people, they're begging for jobs and taking lower salary, Alex is the one that keeps the job and goes up higher. These quiet quitters are
The
so short term.
50%
You're playing
that-
the short game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like so dumb to me. It's the same concept, Alex. You just said it, the short game with real estate brokers. When they got the money and they buy the Maserati. With the people when all of a sudden their house in Lake Ronkonkoma became worth $100,000 more. And they go, this is a good time to go cash out refinancing, take that Alaskan cruise I always wanted to do.
I bet you they didn't buy the Maserati. They totally leased it, and they're not gonna be able to pay their lease terms.
Right,
And-
but I
Yeah.
think that the act your wage and the quiet quitting seems to be like it's in response to like exploitation by employers. So do you think that there might be a better way for them to go about?
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that question.
Absolutely.
So Alex, your point is that it's a counter movement from employees, which I think is good when they have power. But the better movement is to not do the bare bones of your job, but instead to make systemic change. So you tell me, on year one working here, how much power do you have?
None.
None. But if you were to put in the work
And
and
make
you were to
yourself, make
rise
yourself valuable.
and make yourself valuable, how much power would you have?
More.
And then you'd be able to change it. No, but like the point is that
Yes.
it's a right? No, but it's good. It's good if you're doing collective bargaining agreements to be able to renegotiate. But the best thing you do, and I think this is the whole point, it goes to when you make $10, do you go blow it if you make $10 more, or do you keep it? And so what people do is that they're shooting what they got too fast. Meaning it's not like I'm just gonna go like, I'm just gonna do with the bare bones. It's saying, option A, what opportunities can I seize to demand more salary and more benefits when I become more valuable to the employer?
Right.
And if they don't give it to me, screw them, I'm going to another employer because someone's gonna give it to me.
Right.
Like, I don't know about you, I was with a physician I'm friends with this weekend, and he was explaining to me that these doctors, he's in private practice, he goes, it's real hard to hire a doctor. And in his private practice, he goes, the stars make $700,000 a year. The stars. He goes, the absolute best. He goes, what a lot of doctors are doing is they're instead going to in-house in a hospital where they cap out 2 to 250 at the cap. And he's like, I don't understand why if you could make 7 with a little more hustle than 2 to 250, why wouldn't you do it? And I think people are too, it seems worth it, doesn't it? And
Well, some people think that that's so much money as it is, that why not just have a coasting life?
well, if you see how much money their med school was,
Yeah.
on top of their college was, and on their residency when they were making $60,000 to $70,000 a year for all those years, you would start saying to yourself, you know what? The economics say if you were going with a coasting life, perhaps you shouldn't have taken the job in medicine in the first place. Like, if you're going to go through constitutional class that Morty was just describing in law school, and you got to sit through that idiot for 15 minutes while you're sitting there, I'm not sitting there being like, I'm wasting my time thinking about ways not to murder this person and holding myself all in, and now I'm all highlighted up.
Highlight.
And just for the fact I'm going to coast later on in life. Like, the reason to do it, to excel, and I'm not saying that applies to all jobs, but really the point here to Alex's question, her question was, what should the employees do to counteract this? And I think that the real answer comes to the National Labor Relations Board and unionization and using collective bargaining to get better rewards to be able to go somewhere, because you should be able to bargain with your employer. But that doesn't mean you do less. That means you get rewarded in kind for what you're worth.
Yeah, but a lot of times unionization leads to that. People do less.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But that's how people it's not that unionization leads to it, it's that unionization attracts the people that want to do less and quiet quit, which is a new term for a historic issue of people not working the hardest. But my point, and I think this is really the point that I'm trying to make though, overall, whether it goes to real estate or it goes to employment, is Lauren's point. It's all cyclical. And when you have the power, if you exploit the power, which is what the employers did in the first place, which made the employees want to counterbalance with quiet quitting to exploit their power back, the cyclical nature of it goes to the punching bag, which is really what goes on in politics today. As you see already that the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, to use Dark Brandon word, the MAGA Republicans, they're already plotting about how they're going to indict and go after Garland. And they're already going after
and the laptop from hell.
and the laptop from hell. And
I love when I see this.
they're already doing these things. And what they're instead doing is, like when you go on these shows, they're saying, what is Trump right? Who's right? Let's fight for our side. And we go all the way extreme to one side, to the other, to the other, to the other. And really the answer is to Alex's words overall. And I think this is the message from the Lieb Cast. You have two choices. The first one, the first choice, which I think is really where to go, is that you don't really want to overplay your hand. Because it's gonna come back to bite you. Well, that's except if you're too pretty to be arrested. This is the Lieb Cast.
Good job.
Garland, you too